the planet. It was this way when I found it, all right?
Everybody laughed when I first said I wanted to be a comedian. Well, they're not laughing now, are they?
You know why it's laminated, don't you? To catch the tears of joy.
It's a Celtic phoenix. People are thankfully being stupid again.
Welcome to Gurus of Comedy.
With your host, Dave Keeshan.
And welcome to Gurus of Comedy. I'm your host, Dave Keeshan, and today I'm here with Chris O'Neill, who's in Nace. Hey, Chris, how's it going?
David, how are you? Gurus of Comedy. Right, okay, that's a lot to live up to, but go on.
Yeah, we are already reaching the bottom of the barrel. No,
Thank you.
No, Chris, I know Chris. Chris is the room runner of Jesters in town, out of Shinay, and he's a comedian himself. He's also involved in Edinburgh. And you're also a man of leisure. You're retired from many years in the ESB, that hallowed institution, which I'm an orphan of myself. How are you getting on? How's your lockdown treating you?
Sure, I'm grand. I have a garden, and I have life and internet connection, and, well, broadly, it's fine. Cooking every Saturday night or getting a nice takeaway or something. So, yeah, nothing overtly wrong, but, frustrated at the lack of actually being able to do any gigs and not being able to go to Edinburgh this year and whatever. The series of things lined up and they all fell firmly flat in their face, So looking like a good year turned out to be evaporated.
I don't think you're the only person there.
No.
And Edinburgh, they really look like they could be struggling if they say they'll go out of business if they don't get any money this year.
Yeah, I'm very sceptical about that. The Edinburgh Fringe Society claimed they might go out of business. Yeah, the Edinburgh Fringe happened before the society existed.
Mm-hmm.
They came into existence in the 60s, I think. The Fringe was going from 1945. It went from 45 to 60-something, which is 20-odd years, without any involvement of any organisation. And I suspect for the first few years, the Fringe Society was one person in a room. Most of the growth that happened to the Fringe happened because of people doing things because it's uncurated.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a garden growing wild. Fringe Society don't even check on the doors, So yeah, I'd be sceptical about the importance of the Fringe Society, to be perfectly honest.
Sounds like a conversation for a different day. I'll maybe bring you back for that one.
No problem, that's grand.
Today we brought you on I asked people to bring up something out that they like in the comedy sense, and you mentioned a writer called Carl Hiaasen.
Exactly, Carl Hiaasen.
Who I have to say I'm not familiar with much of his work. Well, I didn't know I was familiar with his work. I kind of did a bit of research. Said, I've actually heard of that. I've heard of that. I didn't know that was him. But he is an American writer who is based in Florida. And a lot of his books are crime fiction set around Florida. It's kind of a bit of a franchise.
I think he's more of a Floridian than an American, which might seem like an odd thing to say. Apparently, most people in Florida who live in Florida don't come from Florida.
Mm.
Hiaasen is unusual in that he does come from Florida and cares about Florida rather passionately. So a lot of where he writes, he's a journalist and he writes on a regular basis with the local newspaper, and he's heavily involved in media in that regard. He started out writing for the Coca Today, which is, I didn't even know there was a place called Coca, but there is. But he's a regular now since 1976 with the Miami Herald. And his brother was the editor of a newspaper in Annapolis, Maryland, the capital. And he was killed in a mass shooting in 2018, so the whole family are involved in the media. So the whole family are obviously into the media. I don't know what the parents were, but there was some connection. But he's from Florida, apparently a place in Florida called Plantation, which does rather harken back to the old days of Florida. Anyway, I happened to him originally in the library, the institution that is the library.
I've heard of it, Tales of Yore.
I read, I think I probably ended up reading all the books that he had available at the time. That's a few years since. I'm very grateful to you actually for getting back onto me and reminding me of this, because it seems first of all, I think there's a book I've missed in his sequence. I read Bad Monkey, which was very amusing, but I didn't see that he had a more recent one, Razor Girl.
Yeah, so Razor Girl said recently, I actually read up on that one. That kind of seems a bit dark, all right.
Yeah, well, they're all dark. They're all dark and weird. His opening lines in some of the books are just something else. I have one here, which is the start of a tourist season. And the opening bit in that
Tourist Season is his first book. I believe came out in '86.
The first sign of trouble is a shiner's fez washed up on a Miami beach. The next is a suitcase containing the almost legless body of the local Chamber of Commerce president. Now, I think it's the almost legless. That's the bit that says a lot about him. He's very descriptive, but, to go into the detail of saying it was almost legless, it wasn't. He's still the dead person, right? But he's almost. It's those sorts of phrases.
Reminds me a little bit of Douglas Adams, the way he would kind of play with words. The Vogon ships hung in the air exactly the same way as bricks don't.
Yeah, that's sort of, exactly. He's very fair. But the thing I liked about him is he sort of brings together the things that in many ways interest me. Like he's big into the environment. And most of the books have environmental issues stitched through. And a terrible lot of the people who end up dying, and a terrible lot of people do end up dying, are baddies. And they end up dying by nature.
Oof, okay.
Like alligators or snakes or even animals that don't seem harmless but nevertheless end up killing them. There's one about bass fishing and the cheating in bass fishing, which is beyond obscure as far as the rest of the world is concerned, but it is so funny. I can't remember which one it is now, but it's just so funny. The other thing I like about him is an awful lot of authors. You read the first book by them, and it's very good. Very good. And then you read the second one, and it's very similar to the first one.
Well, I have to sort of say, I was reading the list and the spiel and the timeline and even the crime fiction, and it kind of sounded more like Grisham or Cornwell to me. And those guys, they kind of seem to just churn out the same book again and again with a little bit of a flavour.
Whereas he doesn't. Now, he does have the odd recurring character. Like he has a mad guy. When I say mad, he's not mad, but he appears to the world to be mad. And he was a politician who was elected, who was honest and wasn't corrupt. And then
Pure fiction.
He held on for one period in office and then just disappeared. And he lives in the swamps and he lives on roadkill.
Okay.
Every now and again, someone will get lost in the swamp, and if they're a goodie, he will save them. And if they're a baddie, he sort of might not save them / might let them die. He's a passive aggressive bastard, really. But yeah, he'd be the sort of person that if he knew the bridge was out and you were a baddie, he wouldn't tell you the bridge was out. But he's very popular. I see that the most recent one, Razor Girl, it went straight in at number 2 in the New York Times bestseller list. Now that's some going.
One thing I was kind of surprised to find out that the film Striptease was his, and the book description of it is that she is up against a plurocracy of sugar growers in Florida. They're the bad guys.
Yeah, now actually, that's the thing. The sugar growers in Florida, right?
Yeah.
Interesting family, the sugar growers in Florida, because he really hates them, right? But they're an interesting bunch. They're 2 brothers. They're Cuban exiles, right? Because they were driven into exile by Castro when he decided that he didn't want evil bastards living in the country. But they're a very interesting pair of brothers. The 2 of them, one of them is a Democrat and the other is a Republican, Maria, right? One of them was a fundraiser for George W. Bush and the other one was a fundraiser for Clinton. They were the largest fundraisers for them. And he parodies them in his books.
Okay, so, sorry, context here. So these are the real people that Hiaasen has based them on.
Thinly disguised parodies of these 2. And the thing about Florida is that they shouldn't grow sugar in Florida. And sugar doesn't really grow very economically in Florida. But the Americans have these stupid tariffs on Cuba, or had, I think they have them back, which obviously is a natural sugar growing country, right? But the Americans, in order to become independent in inverted commas of sugar growing, pay out huge subsidies mainly to these 2 brothers, right? And what they do is they make sure they're in power, no matter who's in power. So they pay out a lot of money to politicians. He's very directly connected into the sort of because he still writes for the local paper. and really has a good go. The big problem with Florida, of course, is it'll eventually be going away.
Oh yeah, it'll just sink into this or Godzilla.
Well, no, it is, but it's bound to, because there's a big lump of rock. When I say a big lump of rock, I mean a gargantuan lump of rock on the side of the Canaries.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to fall off, and it's going to create a tidal wave. Well, not a tidal wave, exactly, a tsunami.
Yeah, okay, that'll take out the entire East Coast, I think.
Yeah, but the problem for Florida is that Florida is about 2 meters high. The problem in Florida is that in most of they will have about 8 hours warning on this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's long enough to get everybody to go about 6 or 7 or 10 miles inland.
Still the same problem, though.
Well, no, you don't really, and at least you're not dead, right? You know, the tide, if the tide hits the ground, it does tend to peter out. But the problem is, the projection is that the tide will go all the way across Florida. So it'll clean Florida for once and for all. Anyway, so, yeah.
So I take it in your retirement, you're not planning to move to Florida, like Nace is considered the safest place from tsunamis?
Well, actually, Nace is quite safe. Cork, on the other hand, isn't. It's going to be very badly affected by the same tsunami because they have 2 hours approximately. The tidal effects would be very severe.
Don't tell the Cork people, they won't like that. So is Carl Hiaasen, that's where he lives? So does that mean that'll be the end of his books?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's sometime in the next 400 years. So,
mm-hmm.
I mean, the odds are he won't be alive.
Okay.
He's 67 or something like
mm-hmm.
that, so, you know, we all die. He's one of these guys you can read and just enjoy, although there's other stuff going on. Actually, the funny thing is that when I go into Amazon to have a look, you know the way Amazon suggests things, it's actually suggesting books by a guy that I know. MacDonald. He was a comic and he used to gig in Edinburgh, and he gave up and he self-published, in fact.
Mm-hmm.
And he is I have to get around to reading his books, but they actually come up being advertised on the same page as Carl Hiaasen. You know the way Amazon tells you more books that are the same, you know. Anyway, so yeah. So I'm gonna buy the most recent one because.
So we haven't quite. I've heard there's another one on coming out pretty soon after.
There is, yeah.
Do you think he was best at the start, or did he come to a middle, or is he getting better and better?
I think he's pretty consistent. I mean, as I say, I've had the experience with, you mentioned the thriller writers, like, you know, the Bourne guy, man, Bourne and all.
Yeah.
Ludlam. I mean, you buy the first couple of those and they're very good, and then you buy the next one and you think, this is very much the same book that he wrote the last. Whereas these aren't. They tend to have genuinely new and interesting plots. I mean, he doesn't churn them out that often. If you look at it, he's been churning them out. He's been writing since, where are we? 86.
86 seemed to be when tourist season came out.
And he has he got a few out early on, 87, 89, 91, and then Striptease, 95, 97. Yeah, it's sort of every 2 to 3 years, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's 4 years now from Razor Girl to Squeeze Me, which is the next one. So he's not exactly, you know, pumping them out at a great rate. He does write kids' books as well. So a couple of nominations for prizes in regard to kids' books too. I think, obviously, I haven't read the kids' books, but they seem to be quite well received. He gets nominations for prizes for that too. Mm-hmm. So it's impressive.
That's where the money is.
Well, yeah, now if you're coming in second on the New York Times bestseller list, you're not stuck for, and I think he's one of these things they have in America, these, what's the word for it? Serialized is not the right word. You know, when
syndicated.
Syndicated. He's a syndicated column, so his column is appearing in lots of newspaper.
Oh yeah, so like he writes mainly for whatever Miami something, but it gets printed all over America.
Yeah, and I think that syndication thing has got more and more popular as newspapers have got less and less popular / gone out of existence. So.
Yeah, well, that's the sweet deal. If you know, there's just so much pages. What is it? Page never refuses any ink or something.
Yeah, but it does if there's no other page to pay for the advertising. Yeah. I saw today, rather sadly, in Australia now, Rupert, the evil bastard Murdoch newspaper group,
mm-hmm.
have announced 100 newspapers are going online.
In Australia, or
100. They're
right.
100 of them online.
Because he's mostly.
He owns.
But he's mostly based in the States. I think even he's got US citizenship.
Well, his print media still has a lot of activity in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but 100 newspapers going online. So I mean, it's ridiculous. Anyway, they all seem to want to not pay for anything anymore, which is a bit,
Well, I found that now with the lockdown, just actually the digital versions have been very helpful just to kind of catch up with stuff. No.
Yeah, but Mr. Hiaasen in the meantime.
Mr. Hiaasen. Getting back to it.
Getting back to the topic in hand. I mean, I do like his approach. Like, there's one, he's a couple of non-fiction titles.
Yeah, I saw one, the Assume the Worst, the graduation speech you'll never hear.
And another one, Team Rodent, how Disney devours the world. I mean, you have to love anyone who calls Walt Disney Corporation Team Rodent. It's just, but that's very much the tone of his entire take. He takes on everybody. But I'd imagine he's very lucky in that he got his career established when newspapers still paid money, and which they don't do now.
So yeah, he can have a mandate just to do whatever he wants to.
Well, he has the resources to just carry on. He's not the sort of person an editor would probably. He's one of those people, I'd say, that people have actually buy the paper to read. That sort of way.
Yeah.
Apparently, I was just reading about the striptease thing. When it was made, Demi Moore was paid, and it's made a long time ago. It was made in 1996. Which I didn't think was that long ago, but it is actually a long time ago. Anyway, it was made, Demi Moore was the star, right? And she was paid at the time $12.5 million, which even today is a decent week's wages. She more or less ended her career with the thing because it was a bad result. They didn't make money and nobody wanted to hire her afterwards. So it's interesting. You had a direct hand in more or less ending Demi Moore's career. So yeah, interesting.
She recently put out a book about her time during that period of her career and beyond. Seems to have been very well received, actually.
Oh, the book. Yeah. Oh, very good. I didn't know that. Now she that particular thing it seemed to be a really bad outcome for her.
I just think the movie. Well, I have not read the book and I haven't seen the movie for a while. It's very hard to watch a movie like that. I'm just doing it for research, love. Yeah. No. No, I swear. But I think that wasn't at the time of like Showgirls as well. That movie was meant, change the world of cinema. To make it more, the X-rated movie kind of stuff was meant to be. We're getting all grown up, and the movie's just shit. It was just a terrible movie, terrible acting, terrible lines, and it killed your one's career. She had been on some TV show, like a kids' TV show, and it was meant to be her moving into adult movies, and she was destroyed by it.
Yeah. I'm just looking at the other one that he made. He was responsible. Well, he wasn't responsible. He created Hoot, which I'm not familiar with all, but I'm looking on Rotten Tomatoes, and it's 26%.
Oof, that's not great.
5.5 on IMDb and 4.9 on Film Affinity. I don't know what the story with the other one is, but it's pretty poor.
I had to say I hadn't even heard of it. That one, Hoot.
No, I haven't. It sounds like it should be Hooters. Maybe I'm wrong. Oh. Striptease is worse. Striptease is 12% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Well, I guess people just aren't into taking down the plutocracy of sugar growers in Florida by naked ladies.
I would have thought myself that his stuff should convert reasonably well because it's set in Florida, which first of all gives you an advantage in terms of it's a fairly cinema-friendly physical environment, you'd imagine. You got pictures that will be interesting. It's not like Cleveland or somewhere, which is going to be grimy and dull.
I'm sick of your Cleveland bashing, Chris. Every time.
Well, or, Newbridge. Anyway.
We do not endorse the comments of our guests.
Yeah, it has the advantage. You would think the films have the advantage, at least, of the setting being aesthetic.
I'd think. Well, you never know. I'm curious as he's got a body of work. Like everyone's looking for the new franchise. Like you said that he seems to have a few characters that kind of run through the books.
Yeah, I think the new franchise is young Irish women who went to Trinity.
Okay.
That seems to be the current trend for publishers coming over and parting with gargantuan amounts of money. What's her name? That wrote Normal People has created an industry.
Rooney, is it?
Yeah, which is grand. I'm good and delighted, but it seems it'll be interesting. Actually, there's a young woman who's I don't know her, but I know her dad quite well. He worked in ESB, Pat Dolan, Nisha Dolan. She's sold 2 books. They're coming out, or they were due to be out. One of them's due to be out now. And then another young woman has sold a book for stupid money. The first of them is called Snowflake. So she's also a Trinity graduate. So my daughter's a Trinity graduate. I wish she'd write something down.
Oh, there you go. You just have like ticking metronome outside the door.
But I would have thought his stuff lends itself to film, but obviously it doesn't, because I'm sure now nobody would touch it now, because having had 2 total turkeys, nobody's going to take a risk on the third.
I don't know. I mean, it's like looking at Stephen King. He's done all right.
Yeah, but I think he has some of the early films were quite good.
But his Dark Tower series, which is like his magnus opus, just bedevils everyone who tries to put it on screen.
Oh, I'd imagine so.
They did the movie there recently, and they had so much meant to be hanging off of TV shows and web events and computer games, and it died on its arse. And they're like, rewind, try something else.
Yeah, this is the thing. A lot of the time, I think when people read a book and invest a lot in the book and really like the book, it's very hard to match the inside of their head for a budget.
Oh, for budget, yeah. Well, you could definitely see that with Game of Thrones. When they had the book to work off of, they had something that they could reference against, and everyone seemed to be quite happy. And then when they ran out of book, they seemed to run out of ideas, and then it was like, all right, just finish it. And it just absolutely fizzled out in terms of slow burn, damn squib.
Yeah, well, that's it. That is the achievement that they managed to do with normal people, in that it seems to have at least been as much as the sum of its parts in terms of it's been popular. So anyway, it's good. I haven't watched it yet, but I kind of it is set in Ireland, isn't it? But it's I think BBC have some production. They're actually some of the money behind it. Oh, the BBC and Hulu. Hulu, they're a thing, and Element Films. Element Films is Lenny Abrahamson, so reasonably competent operations between them. But reasonably competent operations have made total horlicks of things before. But he did Garage, and he did. But
like I was
Paul. What's his name?
The what?
Something and Paul was his first one.
Don't know that one.
John, it was a great movie about 2 guys using drugs in Dublin. Very poignant. One of them dies, not surprisingly. But I didn't spoil it for anyone.
Well, we're still kind of living off the back end of like love-hate. Like for years, it was. Oh no, but for years it seemed like that was the institution of RTE. They had your love-hate's coming back in September, and everyone was behind it. And then it came to a sort of a quasi end. Your man sort of was killed off, and then the writer kind of said, look, I think I'm going to take a break, I'm not too sure if I've got some. Turns out he had nothing. He didn't come back for that story since, and RT were just like scrambling around, and they're like, oh, we got to get something else. And so they went off and got a Wexford playwright, something Roach, can't think of his name his first name at the moment, and they put out a thing about tiger kidnappings, and I just didn't think it was very good. I just thought it was quite poor.
I didn't watch it, to be honest.
Yeah, no, but like,
well, in fairness, I didn't watch the other one as well. The one you mentioned,
Love Hate.
Love Hate.
Well, it's nice. I'm
sure it was excellent. It just wouldn't appeal to me, Anyway.
I don't know. I thought it worked. It launched a few careers.
Although it did work, I think of its, as a man said, sui generis of its type, it was very good. I'm not disputing that. And it seemed to be popular.
Well, I liked it at a sort of level that it felt like RT was had got the machine working and was able to produce content, Yeah,
the problem, as you and I well know, the problem with content is writing. You have to throw money at things for a long time before anything sticks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Derry Girls is a classic example. Derry Girls, the young woman who wrote Derry Girls, Derry Girls is her 4th series. Right, and she had a very good opening series, and then she had 2 that didn't do well, right?
And
the BBC just said, "Well, that's fine. Now we'll have another one, please." You have to learn your craft, and when your craft is producing 30 minutes of comedy on screen, you better have a budget to lose. I'm a bit reminded of the Aga Khan's comment. Yes, you can make a small fortune from horse racing. You just have to start with a large one. That's the truth.
It sounds like Steve Martin saying, here's how you earn $2 million. Start with $1 million.
There Here's how you earn $1 million. Start with $10 million.
Oh, the Trump way.
Yeah, well, no, Trump way is lie.
That too, yeah.
He would. I wonder would the orange thing appear in the new book? I'm sure there'll be some references to it. But,
yeah, well, he's definitely against the environment, that's for sure.
Oh, I think he is, yeah, because he doesn't know. He knows he doesn't need to use it much longer.
Not for much longer, no.
So I'm going to buy and read the next episode. I'm going to go back and order. I was contact my local bookshop, which I hope is selling books. I'm going to go back and buy.
What's it called again?
Squeeze Me.
All right, Chris. Thanks very much for coming on the podcast today.
I've enjoyed myself.
Did you want to push anything while you have a chance? Jesters, you're doing some online stuff?
I'm not doing straight online comedy because I haven't seen anyone make it work. Actually going to be doing two things in hand online. One of them is hopefully on Thursday week. I'm going to be on YouTube and possibly on Facebook Live or possibly on Instagram. A thing called Remotely Interested. And the idea is to chat to two people about things they've been doing during lockdown for the first time.
Okay.
So they're doing them new. And then, well, obviously, if they're doing something visual, we'll get a look at it. If they're learning to, one person's learning to sight read music or something. So we'll have a little clip of that. And then that's one. And then the other one I'm looking at sort of a game show type thing, which I'm not going to tell anybody anything about because it's still in development. But that would have basically me and three guests. So I'm hoping to get the first one out and get the technical glitches ironed out, and then get the other one up and operational. So yeah, it's mainly it's about trying to build audience for the day when we get back to live.
Oh, I think we'll be offline probably for the rest of this year. So
I think sadly middle of March 2021.
Oh.
I just think it's going to be a long time.
All right, guys. So pay attention to this space.
Sorry for being pessimistic now.
No, it's realistic. I'm afraid. I thought it was going to be temporary. Thanks for coming on. Find us on iTunes, Spotify, or anywhere else you get your podcast. Leave us 5 stars, and we will see you again. Goodbye.